Everybody learns at their own pace. We're looking for agents that are hungry and humble. This business is all about confidence.
Welcome to Real Estate Leadership Unlocked. I'm Debbie Lariviere, founder of Monter Coaching, where we help brokerage owners, independent firm leaders, and team leads develop scalable and profitable businesses built on strategy, clarity, and performance. We are digging into a topic that challenges even the most seasoned real estate leaders: expansion. Scaling successfully into multiple markets isn't just about adding locations. It's about building operational consistency, maintaining culture, and driving performance no matter the zip code. I am joined by Peggy Lyn Speicher, a standout luxury agent and team leader whose business spans the DC, Maryland region, the Delaware beaches, and even the island of Maui. Peggy Lyn and her husband, Chris, have created a streamlined multi-market model while keeping her team aligned, accountable, and energized with a lot of fun events. If you're thinking about growing your business beyond your current borders, this conversation will give you the roadmap and real talk to do it right. Let's unlock what it takes to expand with intention and impact. Welcome, Peggy. We are so excited to have you here today telling us all about the expansion formula, which I call expand with a carry-on. You have made it successfully through multiple markets, and so I'm excited to share your journey as well as some best practices that our listeners can take with them in order to expand their businesses, because I know that is a huge topic in today's real estate industry. So let's start big picture. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, maybe where your teams are, and a bit about your team structure.
All right. Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm Peggy Lyn Speicher. I've been selling real estate for 34 years. I currently run some teams with my husband, Chris Speicher, and we've been doing that for about 15 years. We have our main core team is in the DC market, DC, Maryland, Virginia, where we used to live for a long, long time. And we have about 20 some agents there. It fluctuates between 20 and 25. We also have 3 ISAs and 1 sales manager who is sort of the quarterback of the whole team, and our TC. Then we have an expansion market in Maui where we have 2 agents there on the west side of Maui. And then we have a small team of 2 at the beaches of Maryland and Delaware, which is where we currently live. And I will say also we have a few backups in all of those markets so that whenever we need to place leads, because we are a Zillow Flex team, whenever we need to place leads, if there's any difficulty within our team, just being too busy or a lot of people on vacation or whatever the case may be, we always have backups on other teams that we're happy to refer to.
That's great. And see, that's the next level expansion too, to have those backups and referral markets where you know that you're generating business. So that's excellent. So tell me, in our prep call, you were sharing your story of what led you from DC to Maui, because I think that's very important when you think about expansion. So often we hear expansion is like the next city over, or on the other side of the mountain, or in the next big area around you so you can expand your Zillow. You went from DC to Maui. So tell us a little bit about how you chose Maui and then what that looked like to launch a separate business in Maui, which I understand was much larger prior to the natural disasters recently.
Yeah. Well, we were drawn to Maui because we had vacationed there for many years, and our plan was to retire there one day. We met some agents along the way through a luxury affiliation years ago, and they encouraged us to move to Maui before retirement because they were, in their words, in desperate need of great agents with great work ethic. So we thought we'd give it a try. We decided we would move there for 1 year and see how it goes. It turned out to be a great move. We were very successful. We built another team there, and we stayed for 6 years until the fire.
Wow. So 6 years. So tell me about what you built there, and what did the business look like with having the team also in DC? Walk us through a little bit of that structure. I know you have a very systemized process in running your three different locations now, but how did you go about setting that up? I think that's always the questions I get are around the how and what does that look like and how do we streamline all these different operations, training, recruiting, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, there's so much to that. Well, first of all, because the DC metro area is enormous, we probably work in 15 counties or more there. We had started doing our team meetings and a lot of our training via Zoom way back in like 2015, way before it got popular with COVID. So when COVID came along, we were already equipped for that. But before that, when we moved to Maui, it was pretty seamless because it doesn't matter if you're in the next county or, 3 time zones away, you can still work virtually with your team. And so that's been a huge blessing. So we started that many years before we left for Maui. When we did leave for Maui, we continued that. We actually increased the number of contacts and meetings with our team on the East Coast just to have a more continuity and keep that relationship going with each of the agents. And of course, our ISAs are still here on the East Coast. And then our sales manager is in Maryland. And she's, like I said, quarterbacking a lot of what goes on with the team.
Yeah, so you basically created a hub, but then you and Chris were in Maui building at the local space, keeping all that up through the virtual sectors. Well, it's one of those things. I started at my first team back in, 2002. Lots of dating myself there. And it was like we started a team before teams were cool. And you started the whole Zoom and virtual before virtual was a thing. So you were already set up for that, which I think that was a huge advantage as we entered COVID. For many of our teams, as those that were already meeting that way and used to that type of learning environment and accountability environment. So kudos to you on that. So I know you mentioned getting in there and just working harder than the others. Fast forward, you're now at the beaches. So how do you go about picking that next market? What's the sweet secret sauce that allows you to be successful in a different market versus, moving to Atlanta or Orlando?
Right. Well, years ago, when we were still living in the DC area, we had a weekend home out at the beaches in Maryland and Delaware. And so it was very natural for us to build a small team there as well, because there's also a lot of many people in the DC area that have weekend homes at the beach. It's a totally different market, so we didn't know it, and it's 3 hours drive from the DC area, so it wasn't very convenient to be selling there ourselves. So we kind of built a relationship and a referral team at the beach already years ago. So now that we're back at the beach, living here full time, it's just a more natural and easy thing. We have a lot of connections with agents. We know how the MLS runs here. It's actually the same MLS as the DC area. It's a very large MLS, so we're lucky in that way. But if I were picking an expansion market for myself today, I'd ask a few questions of myself. First, do you love that area? When we expanded to the beach, yes, we loved it. It was our weekend place. When we went to Maui, yes, we loved it. We could see ourselves living there at least part-time. And then asking yourself or finding out, who are the dominant agents there? What's going on there? Are there dominant agents there? Or is it just kind of a free-for-all? And what is lacking there? We found out from our friends, the agents that talked to us before we moved to Maui, that there was a huge lack of, great work ethic. Nothing against the Hawaiian culture at all, because we thoroughly enjoyed it. But there's a lot of hey, if surf's up, we're not going to work. We like to golf, we might be off island for months at a time, all sorts of stuff like that, which is totally acceptable in their culture. But the point being, if you really work hard and have that sort of mainland work ethic, or from a big metropolitan area, and you're just naturally wired that way, you can just be a lot more successful. And then asking yourself, how can I contribute to the realtor community? Contributing to the community where you're going is so important, because the community that's already in place, you don't want them to feel that you're there to take from them. You have to bring something along. So what is it that they might be lacking? Is it leadership? Is it training? Is it social? Maybe you're a social person and you can help to encourage a better realtor community in that space. So figuring out how you can contribute to the realtor community. You need to ask yourself, how easy is it going to be to learn that market? If you were coming into the DC market, for example, as an expansion, it would be extremely difficult. There are, 2 states and the DC jurisdiction, and many, many counties, all kinds of different rules, different contracts for different areas, very complicated. When we moved to West Maui, it was very, very easy. We had a handle on every neighborhood, every street, every nuance within about 90 days. So that was really important, the ease of acclimating. Then you need to ask yourself, can you afford to live there? Many people, I think, around my age that have been in the market or in the business for a long time are thinking of expanding to a market that's more of a resort or a retirement sort of vibe. And most of those places are really expensive. So you have to ask yourself, can I afford to live here while I'm ramping up for the first 6 months, year, or 2 years? And then the last question I would say to ask yourself is, how can I contribute to the overall community? Because that's so important to getting, putting down your roots and getting referrals, not only from other agents, but from clients, meeting clients. Is there a charity that you can be involved in? Is there volunteerism that you could work, at the board of realtors or in other ways? In my case, the broker there on Maui needed some help with leadership. So we stepped into that role, my husband and I, and that helped us really put down roots.
Yeah. So many great tips there. And I'm thinking of all these different things that where different agents can lean in. I love your point around one, making sure you can afford to live there, because I do hear also with top producing agents, a lot of times the idea of expansion into these other markets typically tend to be more of your second home or luxury markets. Like they're looking to elevate their average sales price. Mm-hmm. And so in order to do that, that comes at a cost, not only for the housing, but I always say if you're going to elevate into a $5-10 million price point, you have to go where those people go. You have to eat where they eat. You have to join the clubs that they're in. And so the cost isn't just, hey, let me throw some money behind social media and Zillow, because that piece is such a relationship and lifestyle group that you do have to be able to lean in. And I know I met you through our mutual affiliation with Realm, and that's where I'm hearing too is that oftentimes when you switch into like a community such as Maui, and they have a different way of life, you have to really adjust to their way of life, but then also understand that the mainland people are often those that are buying those second homes. So it's like, you get the successful businessmen out of California that want this property in Maui. They don't have the I've got a surf break time or mentality to be able to wait on someone to go help them buy that $2-3-5 million property, right? They want it yesterday, because that's how we are. And so I think too, really leaning into that, one, bringing the mainland work ethic is especially important when you're entering into these second home markets. And that's just something that we've seen. It's interesting. I coach a few agents that are in second home markets. And so their work year is typically about 6 months, because it's either ski season or beach season, depending on where they are. And so it is really having to incorporate what we as Americans want at that pace, and not being off the clock to go snowboarding, so that there's that piece. That was one thing that stood out for sure.
Unless that's your club and that's where you're meeting people to, there's plenty to be said for that. There's plenty of people on Maui, they meet all their clients while they're surfing, and that's terrific.
Yeah. So did Chris get in a wetsuit and on a surfboard then?
He did a little bit of surfing. It was more like the restaurant scene and the golf. Golf was a massive part of our lives there. That's where I learned to play golf, really.
Yeah.
So
Great.
everybody-
Yeah. And I could see that at the clubs. That's where you would stand the chance of meeting people that are visiting the area and just coming out for a vacation. So yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing you hit on, and it's a personal experience that I had. I initially started, and I think you and I discussed this a little bit, but I initially started my real estate career in the Orlando, Florida market. And then my husband and I decided to move to Wilmington to be at the coast as well as raise our family. And so when I came into this market, I didn't know anyone. I didn't move here because I had family connections or a sphere or anything of that nature. And this was really before like all the Zillow stuff. It kind of realtor.com leads you could buy, but it was more of a relationship business. And it really hit home what you said. I mean, the one thing that I went and did is I got involved with the board, started spearheading some committees, as well as when I was showing property, I would call the agents, the top agents that were in the MLS, and I would ask to take them to coffee because I wanted allies in this, right? I wanted people that were willing to help me grow, show me the ropes, tell me the little things about the gated golf community, just things that would help elevate me in real estate. And I wasn't a threat at that time, right? I was an experienced agent new to market. And
Yes.
In turn, I would trade free coaching for their team members and building a team because I had already done that. And so, it's interesting how if you can go find those agents that don't really hold on to their egos as much, to gain some credibility within the market, as well as have someone to call, whether they're in your brokerage or outside of your brokerage. I mean, I think that's huge to being able to get a larger sphere base, because then they also tell you where should you go hang out, who should you be targeting, what are the activities and opportunities in the community. And that was something that truly helped me become successful in the local market, was just, I call it happy agent conversations, where I would meet agents who loved their brokerages and they were happy in their business, and I'd go have coffee with them, and so I
Absolutely.
think it's huge to get out there and get to know who the competition is at a friendly level, because just like for me yesterday, it helped in getting an offer accepted. So, so it's just one of those things that you just keep those connections going within the realtor space as well as the community. So.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough to develop a relationship like that before you arrive in that new community, it's even better. And like I said, how can you contribute? So holding open houses for a dominant agent who maybe has lots and lots of luxury listings and doesn't have the bandwidth to hold them all open, and supporting other agents with their broker opens, events, and volunteering. That's the thing that's going to give you credibility. And like you said, make friends with the agents that are killing it in that market. Also, having credibility from the broker that you join, I think that's really important when you enter a new market, to have a brokerage that is well respected, and the actual broker of record or office manager or broker in charge, whoever that is there, either that person or an agent who's an ally, like you said, or some kind of an influencer in the community. To have an ally with that, like in that way, is critical.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to note too. When you're expanding into markets outside of yours, it's not necessarily required that you go join the brokerage that you're with in your local market. And I know you all have done that in a couple of different brokerages, because again, it's so important to be with that brokerage of respect, versus, hey, I'm with company X and I have to stay with company X if they don't bring that strong hold within that community. So
Right. Now
it's something to navigate, but
it is. Most brokerages do not allow that or like it. So in our case, we had some certain circumstances that made it possible and made it work for everybody, still making it work. But also, if you're with a brokerage that's in an expansion mode, they might love for you to go to a new market and open for them. It's not as easy because you don't have that established name brand there, but that's also an option.
yeah, absolutely. And then it's looking at what that looks like as far as the brokerage side. You have to do a little bit more research on, like you said, learning all the laws and the requirements and expectations there too.
Right.
Well, let's talk about the team side. So you have over 30 plus individuals that work with you and your husband. in 3 different locations. So when you think about the training, let's go training and accountability first, and then we'll segue into culture, because I think they're 2 different pieces on how you work to maintain the culture. But start with the training. I know that's an area where you really focus within your team. How do you train? How do you hold accountable? How do you ensure success with all of your team members when you're not physically in that location consistently?
So we have, all the systems that we use, like Boomtown and Follow Up Boss and Real Scout, all of those things. All of those platforms have excellent online training. So that's a mandatory thing. All of our agents, when they start with Speicher Group, have to go and do the video training. That's really, really important. Then they are required to have one-on-one training with me, which is more about setting their individual goals and me finding out what's making them tick and what their why is, and how we can create a roadmap for their success. And then there's training from our ISAs. So a huge part of an agent that's newer to Speicher Group is navigating the Zillow Flex leads, which is not always easy. So our ISAs actually give one-on-one training to all of our newer agents, no matter how tenured they are in the business. They need to understand how it all works. And in our group, the ISAs will be assigning leads to agents based on their geographic locations, their price points that they prefer, and also their personality types. So things are moving and shaking very rapidly, and the agents need to understand how that's going to come to them, how often it's going to come to them, and what the expectations are when they get a new lead so that they can be successful. Now,
Yeah, and go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
accountability is a whole other thing, and it's different for everyone. We used to run our team with minimum standards and minimum production requirements. And what we found out is that everybody learns at their own pace. Everybody has a different level of motivation, and everybody has a different story. So we've really relaxed on that accountability quite a bit. And this is going to be probably a shock bomb for a lot of team leaders. But let me explain. If I'm providing leads to agents, then yes, I need to have them performing at a certain level because I'm investing a lot of money, time, energy, effort, and years of relationships with these vendors that are providing leads for us. But some of our agents, maybe they're a little older, maybe they want to spend time with the grandkids, maybe they don't need leads. They have a sphere of influence that's already built, and they're okay with doing 5, 6, 7 deals a year, and that's fine with me. We welcome those agents to our team as well. So everybody, is held accountable at a different level. But the difference is, are we going to provide leads to you, or are we not? So.
Yeah, I love that. So it's more of a, you set your goals based on your personal definition of success. And that's one of my huge philosophies with coaching, is that everyone defines success differently. And so if you can help every agent on your team achieve their definition of success, then I think you're winning. Because you're winning in loyalty. You're also winning in the ability to show others that your team may be the right place for them so that you can grow in market share. And it also helps them feel like whatever it is that they need for the season of their life, they can turn to you. So you may have an agent that says, you know what, I have 2 small kids at home and I'm good with my 12 to 15 deals a year. I'll just work my sphere. I love what you do. I don't want to have to deal with all the other stuff. Transitions into kids in middle school and says, my kids are making me crazy and I want more income because we're having to prepare for college. Turn me on to the leads, right? My new definition of success is X.
Exactly.
And
everybody at every stage, when you have your culture dialed in, everyone has something to contribute. They contribute to one another. They contribute to us. We contribute to them. It's all a very harmonious relationship. You just have to understand how it all works.
Yes. So when you have an agent that's underperforming for their definition of success, what does that conversation look like, or how do you help them achieve that? Is that something that you all get into at different phases throughout the year? Walk me through that.
Yeah, we set our goals for the following year starting in October. It's a long process. It usually takes October and November and maybe sometimes all the way to the first of the year. You know, some people are really into the vision boards and some people are really into just deep dive meetings with me. Some people like the analytics of it all. You know, how many calls did I make last year? How many appointments? How many sales? How much money did it equate to? And then how can we engineer the future based on the data? Everyone's a little bit different, but the quarterly calls with me are always there. So it's the end of the year goal setting, and then it's a quarterly call with me. And there are a handful of agents, I'd say probably 25% of our agents that want to meet with me very often. So we're either having weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly calls where we're checking in and sort of trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, how can they improve. It's really, like I said, it's up to the agent, you know, their growth is at their pace. But if we're providing leads, then they kind of do get the smackdown if they're underperforming and we're, you know, providing the leads.
Understandable. So it sounds like, and I love the rhythm. So we've got the year end goal setting, quarterly meetings, and then if you're somebody that either is buying lead or is contributing to the leads, or you would like more accountability and training, then you're available. So with all of that on your calendar, do you still sell, and how do you squeak that in?
I do still sell. I don't work with many buyers. Very rarely do I work with buyers. I love the listing side, have for many years. It's easy for me. It's a pleasure. I really enjoy the entire process of the listing. So I just take what I can, what I feel comfortable doing, what fits into my schedule, but the team is the priority for me.
Yeah. And I know too, in our prep call, you mentioned that, you know, working at the beaches, it has transitioned you more into a luxury space and being able to elevate the level of client that you're working with as well. So that's always something new to bring to the team, not only from a buyer space, but from just a different demographic than your move up, move down, you know, general brokerage buyer. So that's
I
always
think
exciting.
that it is exciting, and I think that most agents aspire to be a luxury agent. And so what I've been able to contribute with so much experience in luxury the last 5-6 years, I just bring all that information, all that training to them and really encourage them to do that and to get there as fast as they can, because many agents are really intimidated by it for reasons they shouldn't be. You know, it's not that much different. There are, you know, some elevated areas of service and expectations, but I think everyone is capable of working in luxury, and I very much encourage that on our team.
Yeah, I agree. And I have agents say that to me often, where their average sales price is whatever the market is bringing. And there is that fear around, am I credible to these luxury owners, and how do I get in front of them? And I always say, you know what, start by just touring luxury homes, right? And even if it's agent assist on the listing, go find the agent that supports you in your business and go tour their homes. Start subscribing or reading magazines about luxury appliances, cars, planes, golf. Start playing golf, like all the things that the luxury client leans into. You need to know. Like, we know what LVP is. We see it all the time now. Do you know what the fancy backsplash or new up, you know, it's, you know, when we went from Corian to granite to quartz, what's next, right? It's in a luxury home, I promise you.
Yeah.
So
Right.
go learn. Yeah, go learn that.
Right. I think that if you love working in luxury, you're kind of obsessed with that anyway. You know, you're reading the magazines that are showing the very high end lighting and, like you said, tile selections and cabinetry from Europe and just extraordinary things that when you notice them and you have knowledge about them, it does give you credibility. And it just, you know, this business, I think, is all about confidence. So the more you know, the more confidence you have.
Absolutely. All right. So culture. You shared with me some amazing events that you put on and ways that you continue to grow the culture within your team that has created longevity and loyalty to your team. So share with those out there who are sitting there going, what should I do with my team this year? It was last year we went axe throwing, but that was a year ago. So share with me how you're continuing to elevate the culture within your team, even not always being together.
Well, the culture starts with the daily stuff. So we have Slack channels where agents can put information in the Slack channels about extraordinary or difficult events, such as like underground oil tanks or mold remediation, asbestos, all kinds of things that you might not encounter very often. And when they share vendors that have been helpful, engineers, so forth, then later another agent can search through Slack to find that again. So you're not constantly re-answering the same questions over and over and over. So also on the Slack channel, which is very busy, all the Slack channels are very busy all day long, we have the shout outs. So when somebody did a great job, sold a listing after a mere 7 years or just 7 minutes, either way, it's a cause for celebration. The agents and we as the team leaders engage very often with the agents in that way. So that's on the daily. Then we also have quarterly get-togethers with the whole team. We just hosted a big pool party at our home, which was a big event because most of the agents do not live anywhere near us. And so we put them up in hotels and we had a brunch the next day and then we had a golf event and it was a really fun thing. Whether we're present or not, the team has a budget to have an event every month. So like you said, axe throwing is sometimes in there. Sometimes it's bowling or a cool river cruise down the Potomac or whatever it is. The team decides. Our quarterback for the team, our sales manager, Kim, she usually gets involved with organizing it and herding all the cats, which is the hardest job of all, and then we pay for it. So it's continuing to happen whether we're available for it or not. And then I guess the team training, that's another way that we build our culture. We ask the agents the training that they would like to see, and it's always changing, right? And 2 years ago, it was like, how do I work with my buyers that have lost out 5 times? And now it's like, what do I do with this listing that's been sitting for 5 months? So they request the training. I give the training. It's always by Zoom. Occasionally it's in person at our office in Maryland. But there's that. And then the bi-monthly calls that are whole team calls with everybody. And that's where we give updates about anything that's going on with any of the vendors or platforms, anything that's going on with changes in the brokerage, anything that's going on with changes in staff, which is very seldom, and just anything that the team has concerns or questions about. We're doing that twice a month. So there's a lot of contact going on.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's where I see oftentimes our team leads, especially in the summer months, they get tired, right? And they're out running around and, like you said, herding cats, and the cats are often the staff because they're busy, and the agents and the clients, right? It's all herding. But making sure that they take the time, and that's usually what we'll start to hear is where, the team stops showing up for meetings, or maybe we've got some underproducing agents, or, there's a little bit of coffee talk chatter going on in the background. And oftentimes it's because we're not slowing down as leaders to just have some fun. This is fun, right? I have to remind myself sometimes that this is fun. But it is fun, and we're doing it together. We're all in the same boat. So, I love your approach to no matter what it happens, whether you're there or not. And I look at it that way too. If we have 3 people of 10 people show up, well, you know what? 3 people showed up, and they're important to your team as well. So, I love that the opportunity is there, and that is one of the key things I want those listening to hear is make sure that you're pouring into your team, even when sales are down, even when things seem hard, even when you feel like there's might be some drama in the background. Like, that is the time to lean in, but be consistent even in the good times. So,
right. And I like what you said about, sometimes there are certain agents that don't show up for a while. They're sort of absent. And reaching out to them and finding out what's going on is really critical, because sometimes, almost all the time, there's something going on that they need help with. For whatever reason, they're not reaching out, they're not asking. We've had examples where, it was something medical. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want others to know. And so it's good to have that information so that you can lead in the very best way. You have to know where everyone is and what's going on with them. And when they're dropping off of calls, dropping off of meetings, there's usually something there.
Yeah.
It's usually a crying call, is what I found. There's usually some tears.
Tissues needed, right?
But that's
Sometimes
okay.
by us too, because you're sitting there trying to be strong.
Right.
That's okay.
But,
Vulnerability-based trust is huge. I mean, if you can't have vulnerability-based trust, I don't know why they're on the team.
Right. I mean, for sure, if you cry with someone, you're deepening that relationship one way or the other.
Yes, you are. Well, you mentioned something a little earlier in the call about ISAs, and I know ISAs and virtual assistants are one of those key topics that is talked about and very seldom acted on, because they feel like, oh, it's not the right fit for my team, or they give it a short try and it didn't work. They don't know where to go find them or who the ideal person is. It sounds like you've had success with ISAs. If your ISAs are not only doing the work but training your newer agents to the team,
Yeah.
what are your success best practices on the ISA piece?
We did not have any success with offshore ISAs or any assistance in that way. So that just didn't work out for us. Our lead ISA has been with us, I think, about 10 years now. She is a realtor. She came to us way back because she had really young kids at home. She's a great agent. She knew the market. She knew what she was doing, but she just didn't want to be away from the home. So we created the ISA position for her because she was so good on the phone. So I would recommend anyone like that who's a good agent but just is tired of making the schlep. Maybe they have a parent at home that they're taking care of, or small children, or whatever the reason. Maybe they had an injury where they can't really travel that much to be with buyers and sellers. So that's the best ISA. We love her so much. We love all our ISAs because they are the ones mostly in contact with the agents on a day-to-day basis. They are such a critical role on our team. We treat them really, really well. We try to really give them a lot of credit because they are part of the glue that holds it all together. And I think one of the reasons that team leaders do not hire ISAs is the financial part of it. So I'll just share with you, there's no one on our team, not a single person on our team that has a salary or an hourly wage. Every single person gets paid at closing. So everyone is vested in closing every deal. And so we pay our ISAs very well, but they have to have been involved with the deal at the beginning, and when it closes, that's when they get paid. So if there's any way that you can structure your team in that way, then you don't have the burden of the paychecks coming out of your pocket, and they have the accountability, the self-motivation to help things to close, or else no one gets paid. And I think that's a great way for everyone to come together when things get sticky.
Yeah, I agree. And, all the different conversations around team structure and team compensation plans, I like that thought process. I know I've had some teams in the past who will do like a 90-day draw just to get them started, to
Yes.
get them involved in the calls for the first 90 days, set some appointments for the agents so that they know there's some additional closings on the books that they can work towards. I agree. I think that pay for closings, pay for conversion, it's a win for everyone.
Yeah.
So I have to ask a question. I know this is totally off script and you can choose to answer or not. So because this is a question I would get. So with that split, does the company cover that, or is that split with the agent, or the agent pays for the ISA percentage?
It comes right off the top.
Okay,
So it's
perfect.
the
Just like a
ISA
referral fee.
Yep, just like a referral fee. So every agent knows that if they accept a lead through an ISA that is marked in our database, and they all know that that percentage is coming right off the top when it closes.
Great. Yeah, and that's transparency is key.
Yep.
For
Everybody knows
everyone.
where
It
to stand.
keeps things easy. So now that we've got these successful teams, it sounds like you are still growing. So tell me a little bit about how you find talent and who is talent. How do you define talent for your team?
Talent can come from anywhere. We really have two things we're looking for: agents that are hungry and humble. And that's really just about it, because we can teach them the real estate business, but if there's an ego problem, they're not humble, it probably won't work with our culture. And if they're not hungry and they don't want to make money, then it's probably not going to work either. I mean, everyone, like I said, everyone grows at their own pace, and everyone has a different level of success, definition of success. But if you're not hungry in some way or humble, it's probably not going to work for us. And our agents actually are the best source of finding other agents. It's very rare in our DC market to work with another agent that you really, really enjoyed working with and admired. And so those are the ones that our team members invite to come to Speicher Group. And it's just a beautiful thing. We do incent our agents to do that. But it's very genuine. I should mention also that the hiring process is very long for this Speicher Group. I mean, we take it to the next level, this hire slow idea. So what happens is the prospect will first have a meeting with Chris Speicher, because he's our operations guy. He does everything behind the scenes. He has a short conversation with the prospect. If he's a go, if he's a thumbs up, then the prospect meets with 3 of our agents or ISAs or sales managers. So they have a Zoom with 3 people. And the idea is that the prospect can ask questions of the agents and ISAs about the practicality and the real story about what goes on at Speicher Group without hearing it from the Speichers. So if we get a 3 thumbs up, it has to be unanimous. If we get 3 thumbs up, then the interview moves on to me, and I talk mostly about a person's why, a person's desire to grow, what they need, do they need training, all those sorts of things. And then together, collectively, the 5 of us on the team will decide if this person is a good fit and gets invited to Speicher Group. And I think that's so important, because the people on the team are the ones going to be working with the new members on the team a lot more than they're working with myself and Chris Speicher. So giving the agents and the other team members ownership in who is coming to work with them, I think is really important. So that's how we do it.
I love that, because it is often just I really like them, or I really love them, so let's hire them. So I love that you guys, you turned American Idol or America's Got Talent, you must have 3 to go through, into real estate hiring tradition. So I love that. And I think it's so important. We have to know if those on our team can work with this person, right? Not just the person that shared the deal on the other side, because maybe it was just a smooth transaction.
Right.
It is nice to make sure that other members of the team feel the same. So I love that. And I always lean into slow to hire, quick to fire. Judge me by who I keep, not by who I bring on. Because I think it's so important in recruiting to say that even if they get the 3 thumbs up and they get through your interview, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And chances are the other person knows that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There have been people that I just personally adore, but I know they're not going to work out on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to have the courage to say that, right? Because I think sometimes too, you don't want to upset Agent X who referred them in because they got 2 thumbs down. It's to have the courage and to keep the culture that's okay for Agent X that brought them in. That's okay. If we don't think it's a fit, it's not a fit.
Right.
That's true culture, not a underlying self motivation for sure. Yeah. So I know we're getting close on time. Tell me, are there any plans for additional expansion for the Speicher Group?
No plan right now, but we're definitely open to it. we never planned to build a team on Maui. In fact, we sort of decided when we moved there we weren't going to build a team and we were going to slow down a little bit. But that didn't happen because that's just not how we're wired. We're just good at building teams and loving on them and helping them to succeed and them helping us to succeed. So anything could happen.
That's right. Well, I have one more wrap-up question that I like to ask all of my guests. But before I go to that question, how can they find you? I know we'll have you in the show notes, but if you'd like to have your 20, 30-second elevator pitch on how they can find you, whether it's a client or a potential agent, where do they find you?
SpeicherGroup.com. That's us. I also am the Northeast Regional Director for Real Luxury, so I give monthly masterminds there, and it's a whole lot of fun. So you can find me at Real Luxury, but SpeicherGroup.com is our home, and you can always find me and the entire team there.
Great. And if you're listening and you have referrals for that area, please give Peggy a call. I can guarantee you her team will take incredible care of your client, your referral, all price points. So don't hesitate to send your referral her way. All right. My last question I always like to ask. So, Peggy, what is your superpower?
Oh, that's a great question. I have been told multiple times, mostly by my team members, that I have a great ability to bring out the best in them and to help them to believe that they can do anything. And I think that's a gift. And I think it's beautiful when you take a relationship with an agent and you learn what their big goals are and what their dreams are, and you help them to make that happen. It's so much more rewarding than selling property. And that's what great leaders are for. So helping people to understand their greatness and believe in themselves, I think that's my superpower.
I love it. So that makes me even more blessed that I know you. I know you already sent me words of encouragement after our initial exchange, which went a long way too. So I agree that that has to be a superpower. Well, thank you so much to you and to your team for allowing us the time with you. We look forward to continuing to see your success and having you on a future master class. I hope you have a great day, and thanks again.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been so